For those who are unfamiliar, this is Destiny on the right. He's a streamer. He's got somewhere around 600K subbies. Dude on the left is a supposed and alleged legal expert, and they're about to talk about Andrew Tate's situation, being in jail the way he is. But they're actually about to have a debate with this woman right here and each other. This woman goes by Just Pearly Things. She calls herself Pearl, I guess. She is a femcel, an incel that's female, and she is absolutely nutty, dude. She believes all the same stuff Andrew Tate does, to a disturbing and weird degree. This is actually part 5. If you haven't seen the others, don't sweat it. This stands independently of the rest. I'll provide context if it's missing. The moderator is about to ask them lightning round questions. These get absolutely bizarre. Let's watch. And while we do, we're going to play some Final Fantasy VII. It'll be something to watch in the background, right?
Do you think there's any credibility to Andrew Tate's theory that the elites of the world want to take him down for promoting that men better themselves?
Oh, give me a break, dude. Tate's constantly talking about, the Matrix got him and all that garbage. Such a victim, right? Why is it that millionaires are always the victims of everything? Everybody's always out to get millionaires, right?
Do you mean for this case or generally?
What do you mean?
Do you mean that they want to take him down for this case or in a general?
Yeah,
way?
like before that he was saying like they're going to put him in jail. Like the elites in the world are going to put him in jail.
As if he's not an elite, as if he isn't filthy rich and have as much money as he could get his hands on and have more sway than anyone else. As if he didn't parade around the fact that he's filthy rich by saying that he could corrupt people in Romania, which is why he's there in the first place. He is an elite. It's like Donald Trump bitching about the elite. He is an elite.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, people always evaluate these statements as though he's innocent, but he could be guilty, right? Mm-hmm. Which is always the issue, right? Like, I might come out and I might say, well, listen, they're going to come after me, guys, and that's because the Matrix is chasing me. And I might say that because I'm just, like trying to get views on YouTube or whatever, but maybe I actually did a crime. I'd probably say that too. Like, guys, they're going to make some crazy stuff up about me, be ready, okay? And then, wow, I get arrested because they found out I murdered some guy. I'm like, see, that's the Matrix. Well, maybe you actually did do that. So,
do you think they would want to take him down, though?
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people want to take a lot of people down, including Andrew Tate. But the question...
But who are the elites, and why would they care about Tate?
Is, do we see evidence of, like, a concentrated effort to actually go after him in a manner that's unfair? I feel like if we did, I feel like when he got arrested 10 months ago, they would have found a bullshit reason to throw him in jail or whatever and just kept him there forever. But they didn't seem to do that, so...
I'll try and answer that question. So I think it's too late. So in terms of whether the elites want to take him down, I believe is not linked to this case. So basically... In terms of elites want to take him down, we've seen that he's been banned from many medias. There's a concerted effort to basically silence him. In the UK, he's not allowed to be talked about in schools. It goes to safeguarding, it goes to prevent. So yeah, there is a significant... Really?
In schools, kids are not allowed to encourage other children to abuse their girlfriends or whatever? No way. There have been deprogramming classes that the UK is engaged in to try to deprogram kids from the ideology that Tate programmed into them. That's not really censorship. That's just deprogramming efforts, but okay.
Significant fear about this man by the impact. And so when you say Matrix, what you basically mean is either the deep state or the liberal leftist media ideology who doesn't want to give this guy a platform to give men hope, to give men rights in a society.
Is that what he thinks that Tate is doing, giving men hope? When he talks about how men have an obligation to cheat on women? When he says that men should emotionally abuse women? I mean, if you missed any of the clips from that, then just look at, I think, part 1 maybe. When he said, I mean, God, I got a huge list of clips here that I could go through. I'm not going to go through them right now, but... when he says that ISIS are the real Muslims, that they're doing the right thing. When he says, when he says women are property, when he compares them to dogs, when he literally describes and explains how to engage in human trafficking. I mean, there are a billion. When he says that there are no women fighting in Ukraine, it's a psyop.
There's no fucking women on the front line in Ukraine. That is psyop bullshit.
I mean, dead serious. This guy is ridiculous on every level.
Where male suicide is 80% of suicide, adolescent male suicide is 80% of suicide, where male suffering is huge in this society. So in that aspect, yeah.
He's not helping men. He is attacking women, is actually what he's doing. And if you think that attacking women is helping men, you got problems, bro.
Yes, but in terms of this case, I don't think so. I believe this case is basically Romania on its own. This is my opinion. I believe it's Romania on its own. And the reason I think that is when you look at the way the United States and United Kingdom do things, other than the Patriot Act and the Terrorism Act, generally speaking, what they do is they build the entire case. They make sure the case is strong enough, and then they go after the big guys. In this scenario, just looking at what's happening, they're doing a very shoddy job. And so when they've done such a shoddy job, when the evidence is so weak, when it looks like in a normal system this wouldn't have gone forward, in the United Kingdom this would have been.
That's totally ridiculous. It absolutely would have gone forward in the UK. Now, the UK dropped a specific case against him over specific allegations. But these human trafficking allegations, they absolutely would have gone forward in the UK, no doubt.
Been dropped in the United States.
They should have gone forward anywhere that they were accused. Anywhere.
This would have been dropped. Based on that and the terrible job they've done, I do think it's Romania on its own.
Can Andrew Tate receive a fair trial in Romania?
Why wouldn't he be able to?
Yeah, I don't see a reason why not.
So again, this is just opinionated. So I believe based on what we've seen up to now, I don't think so. Because I believe that the actions that have been taken have been very extreme in all regards. And so if this continues and he's kept for the full 180 days, which I believe is probably going to happen, and then he's taken to trial and then based on that, I do think, yeah, he will not receive a trial and be convicted. But based on the evidence, I don't think he should be convicted of what we have right now.
What is your ultimate prediction for the outcome of the case?
I think he'll be charged and convicted at the very least with like something related to financial crimes. But
agreed. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he openly said that he committed like tax fraud against these women and stuff. So, and the government.
It's hard to say what the prosecution will ultimately find.
So I think he will be convicted, but I don't think he should. In terms of financial crimes, I did have this.
Wow, I'm surprised. This tater tot believes that he'll be convicted. That's actually surprising to me. In all seriousness,
same thought as Destiny previously, but after the BBC documentary, I'm not 100% now, and the reason is because the BBC documentary tried to relay as though they found a treasure trove of evidence based on money laundering, and there was zero evidence. They flopped really badly, and so
okay, I don't even know what he's talking about right now.
Based on that, if he did this massive investigation into money laundering and flopped, there may not be evidence. Now, I accept that the Romanian authorities will have a lot more powers to look into certain regulations or look into certain accounts that they wouldn't. So there is a possibility, but I would say based on the evidence, he should not be convicted. But based on it looks like a Romanian agenda, I think he will be.
Has Andrew Tate been a net positive or a net negative for society?
Oh my God, we haven't even begun to see the negatives that society will experience as a direct result of Andrew Tate's influence on the world. In 20 years, we will probably start to see the results of all of the 14-year-olds who listened to him. Andrew Tate has been an enormous net negative on the world in so many ways. It's horrific to think about, seriously.
I'd say a net negative. I think that most of the advice that he gives is pretty stock copy-paste advice, and I think that the entire way that he's, outside of any criminal stuff, the entire way that he's built himself up has been basically through scamming and then partaking in what most people would agree is like the most immoral activity that you can.
Oh, absolutely. And he takes pride in it. You know, I could be rich tomorrow. I'm talking filthy fucking rich tomorrow. I'm talking, you know, in the next 24 hours, I could be rich if I wanted. I mean, a millionaire, multimillionaire. All I'd have to do is announce that I'm a Christian and that Donald Trump was correct all along about everything. That's all I would need to do. That's it. The Templeton Foundation and Michael Flynn and, Trump himself, maybe. Everybody. The Reawaken America tour, Jim Brewer, they would all come out and parade me around on their shoulders and say, look at this. This guy used to be a liberal nutcase, and now he's this, a true believer, and he's with us and all that other shit. And I would just receive an obscene amount of money in donations, like Kyle Rittenhouse level type of attention and fame and love and admiration tomorrow. But I don't believe that shit. See, that's the difference between me and Andrew Tate. I have a moral compass that will simply not allow me to do something so depraved as to outright damage society to that degree. I can't force myself to do something like that. I just can't, no matter how rich it would make me. Here's another prime example. This one would be easy for me. I've been receiving sponsorship offers from various different companies offering me $1,500 every time for every single video that I release where I shout out their product in a video. $1,500. I release 8 videos on my main channel per month, plus a live stream, so 12 videos. $1,500 times 12. That's $18,000 per month. $18,000 per month. $216,000 a year that I could make off of these companies. You know what I'd have to do? Sell vitamins and supplements like Alex Jones. That's who's offering me that kind of money. Supplement companies. $216,000 a year. If only I shouted these companies out. If only I encouraged people to purchase their products. I could be rich tomorrow, in all seriousness. But my moral compass won't allow me to. That's the difference between me and Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate has no moral compass. He sees a power imbalance and he wants to take advantage of it. He likes the idea of abusing his authority and position to make himself rich. That's how he got rich, by scamming people out of every penny they own. I could do that too. I am capable, and I even have a route to do it. I mean, not everybody has a route to scam people out of millions of dollars. I do. I could not possibly live with myself if I did something like that. I couldn't.
I think that if you're going to find a role model for young boys or for young men to look up to, it should be a guy that, if he would have stuck with kickboxing or done some legitimate type of business, I think it'd be different. But the fact that, sex trafficking aside, everything they've been done is admitted to have been scam after scam after scam, I think is not a good role model for people to have.
So I believe is a net positive, and the reason for it is because when you look at the idea that he's basically relaying, I agree with Destiny. They're not like unique ideas. He's not someone who's invented these ideas, but what he's able to do is these important ideas he's been able to penetrate.
There's nothing important about any of these ideas. He's just a scumbag who takes advantage of people. That's it.
Mainstream media in a significant manner, and so due to that, he's impacted the lives of many young males. And for me, young males are the forgotten species of society. They're significantly going through significant pain and suffering, and they don't have nothing or no way, or no one even cares about them. And so for that reason, I believe he's a net positive. In terms of being a role model, look, this is the issue I have also, which the Muslim community always argue as well. They say he's not a role model. Look, whenever we talk about role models, we never say that somebody is a complete role model. Like, no one's this perfect human being that you're going to aspire to be like him in 100% of the way he is.
You know, he's saying he's a flawed human being. No, he's a little more than a flawed human being. He takes advantage of people. He scams them out of every penny they own. I mean, there is no bottom to this guy. Seriously, there's no end to the depravity that he's willing to do. It's disgusting.
What you do is you aspire to be like that person in one aspect. So webcam business, the way they became famous, exploitation of men, in terms of when they became rich, they're not role models. But in terms of what they are real role models is aspiring men to be better, aspiring men to work hard, aspiring men to not give up, aspiring men to, basically not go into depression. 80% of men, I said this before, are committing, 80% of rough sleepers who are homeless are all men. So all of these things are imperative.
Wait, did you say 80% of young men are committing?
Yeah, 80% of the people committing are young men.
Oh, okay, sorry. Gotcha.
Okay, that was going to be ridiculous.
Thanks for correcting me.
Okay. That'd be a lot of people.
Precision, that would. Precision's important. And so when you look at that, he is a massive role model in that aspect.
What? No, he isn't. He's not a massive role model at all. He scams people out of every penny they own, and his self-help is all meaningless garbage. And a lot of the self-help he offers is just attacking women. Like, I don't know what makes him think that young men who listen to Tate are better off than young men who don't? What gave him that idea? Does he have data to back that up? Of course not.
What percent of Andrew Tate's comments are purely for entertainment and comedic effect?
This is another defense. I don't believe that any of them are. I think he means all of it, honestly.
Like saying anything is just for entertainment or comedic effect. The types of jokes that you tell usually underline some sort of truth that you believe in. Like if I'm the type of person that tells a lot about a particular type of joke, I'm probably hinting at something that's true.
Good point. I like that.
If you look at any popular like stand-up comedian, generally they joke about things, but they joke about things that hint at or reveal true things about life. So I don't believe that there's any comedian or person that just says things that completely and totally betray the foundation of things they believe. I think we generally joke about things that we think are pretty true.
So
I would never ever just say like I would say
0%.
zero. Yeah, it's not
Okay.
like just jokes.
Okay.
It's always like hinting
Okay.
at like an underlying ideology.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think there is a possibility that you could joke and it wouldn't be based on what you actually believe, because generally speaking,
You notice what he said. There is a possibility. Of course there's a possibility. There's a possibility of anything. But the underlying point that he made is solid.
society, there's going to be certain levels of jokes that are not allowed, and so you're not allowed to say it. But that's in terms of preventing. But also, certain types of jokes, even if you don't believe them, is going to get you attention and attraction. So that's important. But in terms of what you're saying, in terms of his ideas, many of his ideas, when you look at it, you can, when you boil it down to the bare foundation, you can maybe find some strong academic argument. I believe I can find a lot of academic arguments for many of the points he makes. But his delivery, which is the comedic fashion, is basically there to...
They're not jokes that Tate tells. Like, when he was explaining how he exploited women and human trafficked them, it wasn't told in joke form. It was told in fact form. Like, I'm explaining how to be a pimp, how to run a human trafficking business.
Which first of all made him famous, but second of all allowed him to penetrate society. And so someone like me, when I make my academic arguments, maybe people will find it boring and it wouldn't penetrate. But someone like Andrew Tate, it does penetrate. So comedy is an important factor to basically...
He's not a comedian. He doesn't make... I don't think I've ever heard the guy make a joke before, honestly. Ever. Isn't joking for cucks or something?
Sure that happens.
What is one specific thing that Andrew Tate has said that you disagree with the most?
This is a hard one because he goes back and forth on this, but it feels like his position on women, I generally would disagree with. The idea that like the husband owns the wife in such a way that she's almost like a piece of property that you cherish or revere is something that I disagree with. But he'll make other statements where he'll say like, well, no, there's like a mutual respect there, or if the woman agrees to it. And I mean, if a woman consents to that situation, it's fine. But I think in general, the way that he talks about women as being kind of like beneath men or something that needs to be controlled by men, and then any position that he has on women that involves these one-sided open relationships, I think are insane.
Oh, you absolutely cannot argue with that one. Like, Tate is pretty open about that, right? He's open about the fact that that's how he views the world.
So I've consumed quite a lot of Tate content recently while I've been looking into the case. I'd say basically when it comes to certain... one of the ideas, just an example of when he said, he's talking about knife crime in the UK, which is obviously a problem. And then he said his solution is to basically put them in prison for life in Dubai.
Somebody who commits a crime with a knife should be in prison for the rest of their life. Wow, that's insane, dude.
Throw away the key. So if one assumes that he wasn't saying in comedy because it didn't seem like it was, that's not like a logical system in terms of like crime and punishment.
And on the opposite end, Destiny, is there something that he says that you agree with?
I generally like messaging that like you're the only person that can rely on yourself. I think that people need to be a lot more internally driven. I think that right now we have a really hard time in society with people facing and overcoming any type of adversity. It feels like we feel like in order to make a good life for somebody, you have to remove every single obstacle in front of them, when we should probably be preparing or teaching people how to deal with obstacles. And of all of Tate's messaging, I like that part the most.
Okay, I think I can agree with that from Destiny, but when has Tate ever espoused that idea? I don't remember that ever coming from him. Am I mistaken? Has he ever said that before?
The part I like the most is, which I've mentioned already, is that impact he has on young men, gives men hope.
It doesn't give men hope. It makes men hate women. I don't understand. He's not like some inspirational figure that like wants to build them up. He wants to tear down women. That's how he builds men up, by tearing women down. What?
In a society where, as I said, men are forgotten, men's pain is not considered. It's all about female pain and female suffering. You got a scenario where this guy actually gives men hope, gives men.
All right, look, I've been going for something like 7 hours, and this is a really, really long debate, but I feel like it's important that I address what he just said and really draw this out, okay? Society commonly tries to address problems faced by certain communities, like women. Women are largely, they're mistreated in large part. The black community has problems dealing with the policing system in the United States. So there are a lot of people who want to address the problems for the black community on their behalf because police mistreat the black community a lot. Yes, there are a ton of groups out there and people and organizations that are trying to help the black community, give them a leg up, that are trying to help women, give them a leg up. And this guy is saying that everyone's ignoring white men. Well, guess why that is? Because white men don't have the same problems that minority groups have. Women and the black community are disproportionately discriminated against for this thing or that thing, just because of their gender or their race or whatever else. White men are not discriminated against on a systemic level like that. That's why there aren't organizations or people out there focusing on helping, white young men, because they don't have it any worse than anybody else. They have it slightly better than everybody else. Yeah, obviously no one's addressing the problems white men have because everybody has those fucking problems. It's just, God, it's embarrassing.
The opportunity I've had, and just from my own perspective, and I'm just a small guy within the sphere of social media, but the amount of people who've told me that he's basically impacted their lives in a positive manner, taken them out of depression, given them focus, given them a goal, I think is the single most important aspect of what, if he is incarcerated, which society will lose. And I believe that is a significant loss.
Tate's whole contribution to helping men is hurting women. That's the goal. That's how he does it. He hurts women in an effort to help men. So I simply reject the idea that he even helps men. He doesn't.
If not Andrew Tate, then who should young men look up to?
Literally anybody else. Literally anybody else, other than Jordan Peterson.
I've thought about this one. I had answers like 20 years ago, but I'm 34 now. I don't know in terms of role models that young people have. I would have said growing up that people like Mr. Rogers, even people like Bob Ross, I think that these are like generally good figures to look up to, like people that send messages of like, hey, you can be strong, but you can also be compassionate. People that are good like moral coaches or guides for life, I think are good. But I don't know. I don't look at a lot of young male inspiring figures today because that's not. I've kind of aged out of that.
It's weird because the manosphere, like the people that are kind of imitating Andrew Tate, Fresh and Fit podcasts and others, are just exploding overnight. It's fucking bizarre, dude. I don't know how this is happening. I suspect it may have some level of, it may have something to do with like China kind of playing around with the algorithms on TikTok a little bit. That's my guess for why a lot of this really toxic, fucked up stuff is getting super popular. But I don't know. It makes no sense to me at all, honestly.
So I agree with Destiny. The issue and the reason why Tate became famous and why he's important is because there is no other male figure. If he's out, there's nobody else to replace him right now, and that's the reason why it's important. Some people may argue Jordan Peterson, but no, I don't think so. The guy literally is crying on TV 24/7. He's changing his position 24/7. His ethical framework isn't great. So there's many issues in terms of a Jordan Peterson that I don't think people should aspire to be like. So therefore,
this is literally toxic masculinity right here. That's actually what it is. People oftentimes misunderstand what it is. They think that you should be a toxic male. No. Toxic masculinity is qualities that men are expected to fulfill or things are expected to do that hurt men. Like not being allowed to express your emotions or you're a girl. That's not healthy. You should find healthy ways to express your emotions. God, it's sad, man. It's just sad.
If he wasn't there, there's a huge void.
I don't know how much life advice he gives, but like Mr. Beast seems like a guy that's constantly trying to give back to people, run charities, give money, help pay for people's medical stuff or whatever. So, but
what about in terms of so of course there's good people for sure, but what I mean is, what about in terms of this aspect that he impacts on society? Is there anybody else who could replace him?
Like I said, I don't know if he gives like moral lessons or coaching like Andrew Tate does, so I'm not sure if he'd be a one-to-one replacement there.
No problem.
Well, thank you guys for coming on. You know, I put a poll in the chat about who won this debate. It's like literally right down the middle, 50.
Like I said, this guy, just to give a review of the debate, this guy basically just did the Chewbacca defense the entire time. In South Park, they famously kind of parodied Johnny Cochran in the O.J. Simpson trial. Got Johnny Cochran up there to say, is Chewbacca a Wookiee? If you believe that he's a Wookiee, then my client is innocent. That just don't make sense. I don't even remember exactly what it was, but the idea is completely irrelevant details that mean nothing and have nothing to do with anything at all. He brings them up in defense of Andrew Tate. Like, why are you even talking about this? It's just complete nonsense, all of it. So, if you believe the guy won, like the supposed legal expert that faced off against Destiny, you're just a tater tot. Plain and simple. There's no reason anybody should believe that this guy won. No reason.
50.
Wow.
Well, that's good.
wild.
Wow, it was 50-50 in the chat. That surprises the hell out. Well, it's just Pearly Things YouTube channel, so I guess I'm more surprised that Destiny got a higher grade than anything.
Up with all of Destiny's
50-50. So 51% is what needed for the beyond a reasonable doubt or whatever. We're not even there.
Balance
So.
of probabilities.
that's
So
right.
you're at your reasonable suspicion at the moment. But the
Just
point,
like the Andrew Tate case.
but I think I think I did well because we've got all of Destiny's fans probably voting for you as well. So, but then you probably got Tate fans voting for me. So.
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, it's a clash of fans. Is there anything else you guys wanted to go over that you felt like you didn't get a chance to?
No, I think we agreed.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I'm kind of curious on a macro level.
Mhm.
How do you feel about all the statements Tate has made about young women, about how he would kind of get people into his business?
I don't know if he's talking to Just Pearly Things or not, but Just Pearly Things totally agrees with Tate.
Do you have any feelings about that at all? Or do you think all of that was just like bravado and fake? Or
Yeah, so it seems like it was bravado and fake, and
No, it doesn't. It seems totally real, and we can tell that because we can look at his private communications, emails to his brother, and text messages and stuff. And he says the exact same shit. This is all 100% real. If it was a character he was playing, he would have dropped the character when in private conversation with his brother.
And that's just me being honest, because when you look at what his operation was based on the evidence that we've got, now it could be he had that and then he completely downsized his business and then no longer had that, or it was just bravado and it wasn't there. In terms of his ethical framework, like, I don't agree with it. So for example, from my perspective, my ethical framework doesn't agree with any of this exploitation or this sexual exploitation, like I said. But
sure. And so when Tristan says he's got like 6 girlfriends at the same time and they all work for him, and when Tate says he's got 75 cam girls and they're all you think they're just lying about all that? That's all fake.
yeah,
75 is a lot.
yeah, I don't believe that's the case. I don't.
No, that's literally what Andrew Tate said. He said he had 75 cam girls.
To have 75 girls, you would have to have a massive operation. It's just propaganda to basically. It's similar to when he said,
Dude, it's what Tate said.
He's a trillionaire. We know he's not a
Oh yeah, I forgot. Tate did say he was a trillionaire.
But it's just to basically propagate your business, propagate your
But
lifestyle.
he did own all those cars, right?
I'm just trying to think.
He did
had
own them.
75 girlfriends times. Let's say you spent 30 minutes with each of them a week. So that's a lot of. Sorry, go ahead. Just thinking that's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? Do you think he had a 75? Like logically, based on what we're seeing, based on the information we've got now.
I don't know how many he was managing, but based on the videos I've seen, based on the ways that I hear them talk about women and their strategies and everything, I think that he had a lot of women that he brought over that thought that they were going to be something special and ended up working for him, and he ended up like taking most of their money. I do think that.
I just don't think that he took most of their money. I think he just followed normal
No, he said he took most of their money. That was from him.
and business practices, and you can see that with the regards to the fact that basically he says 50%. You see in the court documents, actually the worst one is he's only receiving 25%, and then others is much less.
You say he's only getting 25%. It's 25 to him and 25 to his business associate,
Do you
right?
believe the statements that he said? Because if you believe the ones where he was saying he didn't pay the women enough, do you also believe? Because I've seen videos of him saying that he's made women millionaires, and he's talked about how rich he's made a lot of these women.
Yeah, but that's usually in defense of people saying he's exploiting women. He'll say that like, oh, well, no, I've made them millionaires. But when he's being explicit
Right,
about
but
how he
do you believe that statement?
Oops.
No.
Okay, so you So that's just weird to me. Like, why wouldn't you believe that if you believe the other one?
Because in one, he's just giving a guide on, like, this is what I do to take advantage of women. And then in the other one, somebody's like, well, aren't you explaining this? He's like, no, I've made them millionaires. Well, like, obviously, that's just a defense of himself, rather than, like, he's never said that ever. In any of the other videos where he's just being very frank and he's talking about how he manages them, he's never been like, oh, yeah, like, and these women make so much money when I've got them with me. His statements are always like, I own them. I have access to all their media. I'm the one that chooses how they get paid. They don't even see their original paychecks. I handle all the taxes. This is what I do. Those are the statements he makes when he's being more candid.
So a question linked to what you just said. Do you agree with his statement that basically these women on their own would not have they wouldn't have made as hardly any money, and it's the only reason they made significant amount of money and got rich together is because they joined him, and because he was an expert in the field and he knew how to propagate the women in the manner that he needs to, and therefore they became rich together. Do you agree with that?
I agree with all of it except for the last part. They probably wouldn't have made as much money. They wouldn't have, well, let me be clear. They wouldn't have generated as much revenue, because I don't believe any of them kept that much money, but they wouldn't have generated as much revenue without being connected to him. But that's because he was a master scam artist, right? Him and Tristan detailed on multiple shows how they would scam men over and over and over again to get money to try to meet these girls, or meet them and scam them out of more money, and that's what they would do.
Yeah, they pretended to be the girls. They would text them or email them or whatever and tell them that they were the girls and they needed money to do this or that or whatever, and the guy would send them thousands of dollars.
The problem is, Destiny, when you say master scam artist, basically what you're referring to is the exploitation of men, and
No.
the issue. No, because what you're actually referring to is that basically a man would get hooked by a woman, and then he'd be sending considerable amount of money to the woman with the hopes that maybe he could have a relationship. Guess what? That's the entire sex industry, and
No.
I agree they all exploit men.
No, it's not even close. If you have an OnlyFans girl,
Again, this is him just trying to conflate, normal business with what Andrew Tate was doing. They're completely different.
and you send her money to unlock a video or whatever, that's you sending her money to unlock a video. That's extremely different than a girl saying, like, oh, I'm going to meet you. I'm on my way to the embassy. Like, just send me 1,000 more and I can get to that. Like, one of these is very... Now, you might be of the mind, and it sounds like you are, which is fine, by the way, that all, like, sex work is some type of exploitation, which is fine. But if you're going to say that, there's levels of exploitation, right? Paying a girl money to unlock a video is way different than a girl promising she's going to meet you if you just send her €1,000 more.
No, but in terms of the cam business, you've got a scenario. So you're talking about a scenario when you're unlocking. So that's OnlyFans, and that's TikTok, isn't it? And with OnlyFans, that's actually what he's been charged for. He's not actually been charged for the cam business. Just
we're not talking about what he's been charged for. We're just talking about general impressions.
So in terms of the cam business, other cam businesses, they have the same type of process where, not all of them, obviously, because I'm not generalizing, but generally speaking, from many of the
I'm not generalizing, but generally speaking, okay.
cam people who we've spoken to, they say that, yeah, the aim of the game is that where a man likes a woman and then he wants to spend time and then he spends loads of money. Now, where's the level or extent of that money? We don't know, because only these guys are spoken out about it in such a crude manner. But in terms of the rest of the businesses, we don't know the level of where they go to.
Sure. I mean, I've heard that before, but the woman generally actually meets the guy. I've spoken to, I've been friends with some very big cameras, and I've heard them talk about these details, right? You'll get these, they call them whales, your favorite term. But you'll get these.
Pearl famously called a woman a whale on camera a while back. Like, she was yelling at her and she called her a whale. That's what they're referring to. It was a big cat fight, basically. It was framed as a cat fight. They wanted it to make it out like there were these two girls fighting, and it went viral, basically. That was the intent.
These whales are oilers that will spend a whole bunch of money, but they actually do meet the woman. Now I'm not saying there probably are girls out there that are scammers that lie about ever meeting the guys. I'm sure that happens.
No, but
I would call them scammers as well. But Tristan and Andrew very specifically spoke about how they masterfully engineered scams on how to get these guys hooked, how to get them to come back, how to mislead them over and over and over again.
Yep, they sure did.
Were very explicit about it. Not every cam girl does that.
Yeah. So I did see a video where they actually gave examples of when they met as well. So my point is this, that, when you look at this exploitation and who does it, you may know somebody who does less level of exploitation or whatever it may be, but generally the aim of the game is to get a man hooked so you can get money.
Sure, but even when you said examples of where they met as well, I remember that clip. That's where Tristan was speaking very specifically in the beginning. Sometimes the girls would finally meet, but what they realized is they could make even more money if they never met.
Do you think the women
it was the Tate clip.
Do you think that the women were
Andrew.
taking advantage of the men in that situation?
No, there was some level of exploitation happening, sure, on both sides, yes.
If they're receiving a percentage or maybe a greater percentage.
That's a really hard one. The classic.
See, this is the problem. Like, you never want to blame women. It's always the guys, never the women.
No, that's not true at all. There is some degree of exploitation happening, but the women were victimized by Andrew Tate, lied to, The situation was distorted. They were coerced and taken advantage of in many, many ways. So no excuses for that, period.
Just about to give an example. I know you're
apologies.
very ideologically driven on the male versus. I really couldn't care less about it. That's not what I'm interested in. The example that I was going to give, and this is a really difficult question to ask, because you know the Indian scammers for like calling you and like the blah blah blah. There's always a question of like, should they be held accountable for what they're doing? And I don't know if you're like a cog in the wheel of an entire scam business versus like the head. I don't know what the level of responsibilities are. Personally, it's a hard one for me to say. Like, are the girls themselves participating in the scamming? Yeah, it seems like it. But like, how responsible are they? Well, what percentage of the cut are they getting? Would they be doing it on their own? Are they being directed to do that by Andrew and Tristan? Like, these are all things that are going to factor into the autonomy that person has to be a scammer.
The problem with your argument is that basically you're saying they're a cog, but actually in reality, when it comes to scamming that individual person, they're basically the whole show. So it's the individual woman who's basically exploiting that specific man. So what you're trying to say is, guess what? Andrew Tate is directing, let's say, 10 women, and all them 10 women are exploiting. So therefore, he has a greater responsibility because he's partaking in 10 aspects of it. But that woman is partaking in that aspect. So from a macro level, you're right. But from a micro level, they both partaking in the scam, and they're both equal shareholders in that.
They are not equal shareholders in this scam.
Getting paid equally, maybe even on the micro level, but on the macro.
If they're getting paid equally and they're both equally aware of what's happening, but we've already established that these women were coerced and defrauded and lied to in this process. They are not equally culpable.
Level, even on the micro level, I don't think you're correct, because didn't Andrew and Tristan talk over and over again about how they were the ones running the DMs? I think.
Yeah, they wouldn't let the girls anywhere near the phones because they didn't want them to have a client list to fall back on if they tried to leave. That was coercion.
Andrew's joked multiple times about how, well, the girl's in that room and then I'm in the other room and blah, 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 blah. Like, he's doing the DMs. He said that multiple times. That was one of the reasons why he said he was making more money with these girls than they ever could have, is because they'd engineered down to like a fine, perfect formula what they needed to type to guys in order to get them hooked.
No, but that's because that was their business model, wasn't it? But in reality, when you look at it, it was actually specifically the woman who was in the screen who was basically getting the man to be interested in him so that he could be exploited. And when you look at it, as we said, if it was a 50-50, from a micro level, they're both 50% responsible. If it's a scenario where it's 50-25, then let's say there is a scenario where she's receiving a greater cut, 70%, 30%, then she's exploiting much more.
Possibly.
It
changes a little bit, but like here's the reality, right? If you've got a guy that's at the head of a scam, and then he's recruiting people and paying them to be little scammers, and I guess, yeah, you could say they share some responsibility depending on how they were recruited. That's a
Agreed. Yeah, depending on how they're recruited, for sure.
really important part. But they share some of the responsibility. But most of the responsibility is always going to go to the head of that thing, of course. Just like you're gonna blame like a major dealer over like random kids dealing on the street, of course.
So why does it depend on how they were recruited?
Because they were recruited through force, fraud, or coercion. They were lied to. They were tricked, deceived, and they were taken advantage of when they arrived in that situation. But of course, she doesn't accept any of that. Pearl is a complete nutter butter.
Well, because if somebody says like, hey, we're going to go and scam a whole bunch of men, you want to sign up, and you sign up, well, at that point, you're kind of like, you're part of the scam. You're along for the ride. That's kind of your fault. But if somebody says like, hey, like, I really love you. I want you to come to Romania. I want you to be with me.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to work together. We're going to be a team and blah, blah, blah. And then you get there and he's like, listen, I need you to work for 12 hours a day. We're going to handle your DMs for you. It's a lot different, the level of responsibility.
I love you, but we're going to scam a bunch of men.
Did I ever say that?
No, but that's basically what you said.
No, that's not what I said.
You said basically if they're dating and then she does it, it's a different level of responsibility. I just don't understand why.
If you're dating, yeah, of course. Like once you're married, the relationship changes significantly, right? If I found a random girl on the street and I started to get her to scam people, I was like, hey, we should scam people. The level of like autonomy that she has as a person is going to change versus like my wife, because I probably have a lot more leverage over my wife because we're married, right? Or my wife over me, right, is going to have a lot more leverage because we're married. So yeah, that's going to change. The relationship is going to change quite a bit there.
The relationship would be different, but the actual impact would not be different. And
no, we're not talking about impact, right?
No, because we're talking about the impact as exploitation. And then in terms of the women, when you look at the women that who are basically in this case, all of them have been all of them up to now, what we know about, have all been in the sex industry before. So again, it's not a level of exploitation where you're getting some victim or from a poor country who basically didn't know about any of this and then you're making them into it. But nearly all of them are have been in the sex industry or have been in a more severe version of the webcam industry before they ever met.
Bullshit. Not true. And as a matter of fact, okay, what he just said was nearly all of them were already in the industry before they even met Andrew Tate. That's not true. Andrew Tate specifically said none of the girls were involved in the industry before getting with him, before joining with his whole operation or whatever. And the reason behind that is because he's disgusted by the idea of girls being involved in the industry. He doesn't want to sleep with somebody who's been promiscuous in their lives. But if they're promiscuous through a camera and only through a camera, and only when they're with him, it's a different situation.
So Tate's original claim was that most of the women, now I don't know, for the victims that have come forward, Tate's original claim was that most of the women that have worked for him weren't involved in the sex industry before. Now, whether that...
None of them, he said, according to Tate's claims specifically. Now, is that true? I assume so. I think he set out to find women that were not involved in this before because that's what he was into or whatever.
That was bravado again. We don't know.
And you agree that doesn't matter in the sense
we're not
of
talking about charging. Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but
also, when you say the impact equals the exploitation, that's not true. The exploitation is going to lie in the intent, right? If I go to a shop to get my car fixed and they try to repair my brakes and they legitimately make a mistake, right? Well, I'm going to go back and I'll get my brakes fixed again because I messed up. But that's a lot different than somebody intentionally saying like, we're going to fake this one and charge them anyway, right? Even if the impact is the same, the intent is going to matter a lot when we talk about exploitation because exploitation is a crime that exists in the mind. It's not just in the final outcome. I think.
I agree. Intent is important. And the intent is the same. So because if you get your wife to basically exploit someone or you get a random person to exploit someone, the intent is the same. What your argument is that the influence is different, but the intent is the same.
Well, do you think any of these girls that worked with Tate would have been this scammy with men had they not worked with Tate? I thought we all agreed earlier that they couldn't.
I believe they were.
I see a lot of
yeah.
girls that are this scammy with men for free.
Okay, I don't know.
Okay, I don't think they're this scammy, first of all. This scammy is a level that almost nobody will achieve in their entire lifetimes. But aside from that, I denounce that. That's wrong. Simple as that. See how that works? These people seem to have this weird issue where they find it nearly impossible to denounce bad behavior. Like, holy shit, people.
What question you're answering? So I'll answer it again.
Would they have been this scammy with men?
My question was,
So in terms of these women, yes, they would have been scammy if they had it. So, but the only difference is, if he's right, which I think we both agree that if these women were on their own, their operation wouldn't be on the same level. So, because the operation wouldn't be on the same level, maybe not so. But if the operation was on the same level, of course they would.
Do we have any evidence that any of these women had like other men running their DMs and that they were running long-term scams on any of their male clients?
There you go. Good question.
Which other women?
Any of them.
No, what do you mean? Sorry, I don't.
She claimed to know a ton of women that scammed men constantly. Did any of these women run DMs to manipulate men in the way that was being described by Tate, by the way Tate did things?
Because the claim that I'm making for the camming business is that the girls were told by the Tates to intentionally mislead men about possibly meeting them one day. And that was a way that they collected more and more funds.
Yeah.
Are any of these women that have come forward as victims before the Andrew Tate thing, were they doing those types of behaviors?
So basically, they were all in the same business or worse. So some of them were strippers, some of them...
Not true. No. Tate specifically denied that and said that he only worked with women who were not in the industry before. Webcam business and so on and so forth. So, but in terms of whether they were doing that, there's no evidence that they did it before or with the Tates because none of that information, again, so even in the Tate case, there's nothing about that.
Okay. Well, if the Tates are lying, then obviously I don't agree the exploitation is there. But I mean, if they're being truthful, I mean that's a level of exploitation that I don't believe any of those women would have engaged in had they not been part of the Tates.
What do you mean by lying? Sorry, I just missed you. Fine.
If what the Tates were saying were true, the way they were in their business, then I would say that level of exploitation is not something that they would have taken part in before. Just stripping is not the same as lying to men saying you're going to meet them, et cetera, et cetera. But it's possible the Tates were just lying about everything. In which case, then
And I disagree. I said they would have if they were at the same level of fame.
I'm curious. Would your opinion change if they had OnlyFans accounts today? So, like, if the girls in 2023 had OnlyFans accounts?
No, because I don't consider OnlyFans exploitation.
I feel like it's a little bit exploitative, but, it's a free country and all that.
I don't get you.
It's not the same thing as cam work. It's very similar.
Wait, what did I say was the exploitative part of the cam thing?
You said that the men coming out to try to see them.
Yes.
Okay, but you don't. Okay, but yeah, so your
If on
your
OnlyFans-
worldview
yeah.
is that you don't think that's exploitative at all.
Wait, that what's not exploitative?
You
at
don't
all?
think OnlyFans is exploitative.
I never said it's not exploitative, but if we're going to
From
measure
this aspect,
exploit, it's
yeah.
going to be completely different. If somebody in OnlyFans is saying like donate $1,000 and we can meet someday, and she's lying, she's never going to meet the guy, and she keeps soliciting donos, then I would say that's the same thing as what they were doing with the Tate.
Yeah, I understand your point, Destiny. But the thing is, in terms of this, I know we'll come back to the charges, but they're not actually being charged for webcam. They're being charged for OnlyFans and TikTok. So on that basis, your argument about human trafficking doesn't.
Well, but they might be doing that same
agree?
thing on OnlyFans, right? That might have been on OnlyFans. They would have been telling them like, send me this money, and then you can meet us at this area, or whatever. Like they could have been running that scam on OnlyFans as well. I don't know if they were or not because I don't know.
Yeah,
what
we
those
haven't got no
messages
data or evidence
Yeah.
for that. So
I've only heard him talk about his prior camming business. I don't think they've talked about the current OnlyFans stuff, unless it applies to the current business as well.
So in terms of that,
Dude, here's the thing about Tate, okay? Andrew Tate has proven himself and openly described himself as taking advantage of everybody around him, taking the power imbalance between himself and other people and using it to his advantage. That's his whole thing. So I don't know what he's up to right now or what he was up to in the past year. I don't know how he ran his OnlyFans business. But I do know that he has a vested interest in taking advantage and exploiting people and exploiting the power imbalance between himself and others. That's just part of his personality. That's who he is.
that we don't have any information about them doing that whatsoever. No one has claimed it to be the case.
Dead silence. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for coming. This was a really fun debate.
Yeah, I had fun.
Yeah, super fun.
You know,
It was ridiculous. It was just the Chewbacca defense the entire time. This guy on the left just kept saying Chewbacca is a Wookiee. That just don't make sense. That's basically what the whole thing was about. It was just him bringing up non sequiturs and garbage 24/7 that didn't apply to the situation at all, and citing fake statutes, okay? Claimed, Article 100C and 99 of Romanian law were violations of Tate's human rights when those articles have nothing to do with anything. They're just like how life imprisonment and, release or conditions of release work in the country. Like nothing to do with anything.
we had a lot of fun.
Lots of fun.
Lots of fun.
The one last night was pretty fun too, but
the-
it's okay, I guess.
Which one?
We had people running away and screaming and running out the door, but
Yeah, and he was defending me after.
I wasn't.
Defending me.
No.
Yeah, he's always defending me.
And just want to give props to Destiny because I know you did your hair for charity, so
Thanks a lot.
well done, bro.
Well, do you guys want to shout out any social media you have? Any final thoughts that you want to say about the case?
Go
There
ahead
you go.
first.
I'll-
I've gone first all the time. You go.
No,
ahead,
I'll let you go
first.
first because you're an expert and basically giving yourself a shout out, so I can just mimic.
I'm youtube.com/destiny and instagram.com/destiny.
Right, so
Who uses Instagram? Who uses Instagram? Everyone uses YouTube nowadays.
my Twitter is at Sheikh Suleiman, and my YouTube channel, which I'll be starting posting videos on, is the same.
My YouTube channel is just Pearly Things. Make sure you guys subscribe to it.
She's absolutely terrible in every way.
And also subscribe to the 2 Clips channels, Pearl Daily and
Yep, no more of that. Anyways, yeah, this is just absurd, dude. This is absurd on every level. Seriously, just let me know what you think about this in the comments. I was fascinated by it personally.